On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's time to address the Ohtani-sized elephant in the room. He's made it to the World Series with the Dodgers, and everyone wants to know how the Super Halo brothers feel about it. Well, we're going to address that and also ask this question. Why is it that Mike Trout is getting dragged through the mud because of this? It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. You can place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Do you feel that, Mike? Do you feel that's the sound and the feeling of 1,000 Dodger fans coming for our page today? What's going on, everybody? Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, it's our third offseason here, talking Angels baseball. We're talking Angels baseball 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday until about late December. We'll drop down to about 3 episodes at that point. But on today's show, Ohtani is in the World Series. Everyone's asking us and Angel fans and Super Halo Bros and people uninvited coming into the comments. And, I bet Angels are butthurt. How do the fans feel? How do we feel? And why does Trout get drugged through the mud when stuff like this happens? Well, let's start with the obvious, Mike. Ohtani is playing in his first World Series and in his first year with the Dodgers.
Yeah, let's give the Dodgers their flowers, Johnny. They did overcome a struggling starting pitching staff, a injured starting pitching staff. Dave Roberts has managed this bullpen really well, and that bullpen has been spectacular for the Dodgers. And so, give them their flowers because they have played well, and this is what the Dodgers are supposed to do. This is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be in the World Series. If they don't get to the World Series and if they don't win the World Series, it is a failed year. They set themselves up for that, rightly so. Went out and got all the guys, spent $1 billion, got everybody that they needed, and rightly so. This is where they should be. So we're not surprised. Angel fans are not surprised. Baseball fans are not surprised. But let's talk about Shohei Ohtani specifically and him being in the World Series. And He's obviously on the Dodgers, and here's the reality. There is a camp of Angel fans that don't like the fact that he's on the Dodgers, don't like the fact that he left the Angels and went to the Dodgers, and whether that's a casual baseball fan or it's a long-rooted fan of the Angels or maybe a fan of baseball, there is this natural AL, NL crosstown rivalry between the Angels and the Dodgers. The reality is the Dodgers have been dominating the Angels for the last couple of years. They've been a whole lot better than the Angels. And the truth is, Johnny, it's one thing if Ohtani's leaving the Angels and he goes to the Dodgers. And for some, they would wish that he would go to a different team. Like, how come the Blue Jays didn't sign him, right? Like, Padres, we're looking at you. Giants, we're looking at you, right? It would make it easy, I think, for some Angel fans to root for Ohtani if he went to another team. But he did sign with the Dodgers. Great decision on his part. Great decision on the Dodgers' part. But there are Angel fans that do struggle with Ohtani on the Dodgers. I struggle with it because it is a rivalry. Personally, I've never been a fan of the Dodgers. Don't hate them. I'm glad that they're being a successful franchise, but I don't think about them as much as it seems that Dodger fans think about us. But having Ohtani on the Dodgers going to the World Series, there is you just knew it was coming, right? You just knew that was going to be the reality this season.
It's exactly the reason why he did what he did. He got everything he wanted. He wanted to go to the World Series and play in meaningful games, and that's what he's got. And I get it. And I totally understand there's a fan base out there, or a contingent of Angels fans who just don't like the Dodgers, and it's always because of the chirping and the back and forth and whatnot. I think I saw it was Chuck on Angels Win talk about, man, when I would turn on the TV and they were sharing TV channels or whatever, and it would be Dodger coverage and one little segment on the Angels, that's why I'm bitter. And I know Chuck's fandom goes way back. And so I thought that was funny, but it makes sense. But here's the thing. On Ohtani leaving the Angels, yes, there are some fans who are upset that he left for the Dodgers. But what Angel fans understand, what they recognize, and don't need to be told over and over again, is that the Angels owner, Artie Moreno, is the one to blame.
Right.
Angel fans know Artie had a chance to match Ohtani's offer. Angel fans know it would have been best to trade Ohtani, 2 years ago, or even when he had 3 months left on his contract. We all know that would have been the best move. We've spoken many times about how Artie Moreno had left money on the table, Mike, when it comes to Shohei Ohtani. In fact, any amount spent on him in his contract could have easily been paid back and made back with sponsorships, attendance, all that stuff. Now, was there a risk to keeping him? Sure. They weren't sure what his arm was going to be like. They weren't sure if he was going to be healthy. Is he a good fit for this team who's still not even close to getting back into playoff contention, and they're working on it, and they're building, a young core and whatnot? Might not have been a good fit. All of that to say, it never seemed like Artie had any meaningful intention of bringing Ohtani back. So that's what I think is key, is that Angel fans get beat over the head by other fan bases who think they know more than them. It's like, no, we lived it. We're going through it. We've known this fan base and this owner and this team for a very long time. You don't need to remind us of the team's shortcomings, because we're all very aware of the team's shortcomings.
Well, and then there's also the narrative about the Angels couldn't even make the playoffs with Shohei Ohtani. Listen, we need to remind everyone that Ohtani's first truly breakout season was in 2021. Mm-hmm. He had been with the Angels for 3 years at that point, and 2020 was awful. He couldn't get out of the first inning in his first start back after his injury. Yeah. He only pitched an inning and 2/3 in his second start. John, he batted 190 that year. And so all of this talk about Shohei Ohtani, too bad we didn't sign him when we did, and other teams, Dodger fans, you would have hated Shohei Ohtani. You would have not wanted him on your team. You would have not stuck with him. Ohtani's first breakout season came in 2021. And Johnny, when he broke out in 2021, you know who was hurt? Mike Trout.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony Rendon, right? In 2022, when Shohei Ohtani had an incredible year, you know who was hurt? Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon. In 2023, when Shohei Ohtani had a really great year, you know who was hurt? Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon. The closest that they came to even getting a breath of the postseason was last year, and bought at the deadline, and that didn't go well, right? And they tried to get Ohtani to the postseason, but it didn't go well. And so obviously the Angels didn't do enough to get the team to the postseason, even in Ohtani's prime years. But Johnny, let's stop acting like they had 3 MVPs all playing together at the same time they didn't. And you know who has 3 MVPs all playing at the same time, and they're on the field more often than not? They're called the Los Angeles Dodgers. And what the Dodgers are doing is what the Angels wanted to do, but the injury bug just kept hitting the Angels, and they weren't able to have all of these guys on the field all at the same time.
Right. And if anybody wants to be doing what the Dodgers are doing, it's Artie Moreno. He just can't put his money or where his mouth is, or the words that he says. He wants to win, but they choose not to develop the way that teams ought to be developing this day and age. So what now, Michael? What now? It's the Yankees versus the Dodgers in the World Series. It's East Coast, West Coast. To be honest, longtime Angel fans are probably more bothered by the Yankees being in the postseason because of the history of the Yankees and the Angels. In fact, the last time the Yankees went to and won a World Series was in 2009, and they beat the Angels in the ALCS to get to the World Series. So when you ask an Angel fan who they're cheering for, don't be surprised if they tell you, I'm not cheering for either one, because some are going to root for, there's some are going to root for the Dodgers because of Ohtani. Some are going to root for Ohtani himself. Some are going to root for the Yankees because Ohtani is on the Dodgers. And some will say, when does the season start? When does 2025 start? So I think that kind of sums up where Angel fans land on this whole thing. There's a whole lot of different camps. Everybody's got different feelings. But what we all have in common is we know the shortcomings of this team. We know Artie Moreno is the problem with this team, and that's why they haven't been able to do anything since 2014, despite having Mike Trout, despite having Rendon, despite having Ohtani. The injuries, the ownership, the payroll, all of that stuff. And even when they tried to sniff it last season, they gave it the best shot. I was excited that they wanted to get to the postseason with Ohtani on the team. Now, again, you can argue that wasn't a good move. You should have traded Ohtani. I get all that. But who doesn't want to go to the postseason with Ohtani on their team? I certainly did. And they made the moves that they did, and they all fell flat on their face. It was an awful, awful ending and a huge letdown at the end of last season, right?
Yeah, it was a terrible ending, and I was excited. I'm with everybody. Yeah, they should have traded him and moved on and got a lot of prospects, and that would have been the smart move. But they had the world's best player on their team. Let's get him to the postseason. And what we see from Shohei in this postseason right now is the Shohei that we would have hoped for last postseason, right? Mm-hmm. This guy was 18 for 22 with runners in scoring position. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's been Shohei Ohtani. He's been great. So just so that we're clear, John and I are fans of Shohei Ohtani, and we are sad that he's not on our favorite team anymore. And we represent a lot of Angel fans that I think are in our camp, our everydayers, who don't need to be told all of what has happened in the last 10 years. We live it. We're in it. We're moving around, avoiding the fire inside of the dumpster. We're in it right now. And we're going to talk about the fans and the comments in the next segment. But it just, it blows my mind that your favorite team is in the playoffs. And the first thought that many Dodger fans have is to find an Angels podcast and leave a comment. Seriously? And then the other thing that really irritates me is ESPN, Fox, all of those sports networks are going nuts because they got their two favorite teams in the playoffs. The narrative out there right now is it's going to be the highest rated. It's going to be this. It's the best. It's this. It's that. Well, gosh, yeah, of course. Who would have thought that the two highest paid teams who went out and got the best players, who would have thought that they would make it to the playoffs and actually get to the World Series? Like this is what they paid for. This is good. And they played to get there, and I get it. But the narrative would have been a lot different if it was the Guardians and the Dodgers, or if it was the Mets and the Yankees, right? The narrative would have been very different. And I don't think the networks would be backflipping like they are right now. And it's annoying because they don't talk about other teams. The Guardians are a great team. The Mets, they're a great team. The Padres, we're a great team. Like, there's a lot of good narratives out there, but it just, you could tell, like, there's no negative talk at all about either one of these teams and any sort of like bummer about it at all. And they're hearing cha-ching, 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 because they're going to make a ton of money on all of this. And that's really what it boils down to for those major networks.
Yeah. Well, I never want to hear anybody complain about the 4 days off between the end of the season and the first round of the playoffs after the wild card's done, because both the Yankees and the Dodgers did just fine to get there. It didn't seem to hinder them in any sort of way. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up on Locked On Angels, I got a bone to pick with a certain group, a certain segment of the Dodgers fan base. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Mike, the ones that like to find Angels podcasts and Angels Twitter and all that stuff and talk nonsense. So, I've got some words for a certain segment of fans, and we'll talk about that coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, PrizePicks allows you to play against the numbers, and that's it. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Right now, you can go on PrizePicks. They have World Series stats that you can select. I would probably select more when it comes to home runs for Shohei Ohtani, because you know that this guy's probably amped up right, to go and play in the World Series. And you can also pick football stats as well. All you got to do is pick more or less, and it's usually half stats. So when you pick a stat more or less, you're going to, if it says half a home run, go more, especially if it's like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, those types of players. Right now, you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Makes it easy for you. Download the app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. Don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day and everydayers. If you'd like to support the show, if you'd like to support Mike and I, the Super Halo Bros, head on over to the Super Halo Bros merch store. We have Angels-related t-shirts and merchandise. We've got Super Halo Bros merchandise as well. You get yourself a hoodie. That'd be nice for the winter coming up. It's starting to get cold outside, except for yesterday. It was like 88 degrees out here. So, eventually you can wear that hoodie. But head on over to the merch store. We'd love to get your support there and get yourself a t-shirt. And you'll support Mike and I directly with it, and you'll look good at the same time.
If my favorite team was in the World Series, I would be celebrating with John and celebrating with good friends and celebrating with baseball fans and talking about how exciting I was that my favorite team is in the World Series. John, what I would not do is go and talk to a random team and leave comments, direct messages, and say, oh, look, what happened? This guy was on your team, and now he's in the World Series. How do you feel about that? Why am I even in your head? Why am I even in your heart? Why am I even a part of the narrative that is your story? Your favorite team is in the World Series with the world's greatest player. Why not just celebrate? Tweet that. Post that. Instagram story that. Make a TikTok video about that. Why in the world are you coming to talk to two podcast nerds about this guy that used to be on our team that now he's in the World Series? Yes, that's fantastic for him. Why? Your favorite team's in the World Series. Why are you talking to me? I don't know why, John. Why are they talking to me?
Well, listen, this is where I take issue, and it's time to take some fools to school. Okay. I know personally, and I interact with a lot of great Dodger fans. My buddy Johnny, he's a good buddy of mine, longtime Dodger fan. He talks Angels with me. I talk Dodgers with him. He's been so excited through this postseason. Jeff Snyder from Locked On Dodgers, who hosts the show along with Vince. Jeff has never once rubbed anything in our faces. And the whole time we've been hosts and we've known him, never once has had a snide remark. Snyder, get it? Snide remark, something punching down, anything like that. Jeff has never done that to us. Nope. Kevin on Twitter, he gives us grief because we were excited that the Angels tried to go for it last season, but he's still a smart Dodger fan, and he interacts with us. And even he thought when I posted our playoff predictions, he was like, I'm afraid you're right about San Diego and the Dodgers and San Diego moving on. And he had the same thought we did. Maybe the rotation couldn't hold up, but man, like you mentioned, give it up for Dave Roberts for managing this bullpen the way that he has. I don't know how much steam they have going into this series with the Yankees, but that's neither here nor there. Shout out to Dodgeroso on Instagram, who, pokes fun at us, but we go back and forth, and it's very sportsmanlike, and we have fun, right? Like last year, I think it was Brandon Marsh celebrating with the Phillies, and he said, can't wait to see Ohtani doing this with his new team, the Dodgers, next season. And that was before Ohtani even signed. And I said, get out of here. So we go back and forth. We're playful about it. But here's where I take issue, Mike. Lean in. Here we go. Everybody, the ones who jump into the comments on our show when it has nothing to do with Ohtani, the Dodgers, they're not even playing each other. It's not even that time of the year. The ones who like to punch down and make fun of a very young Angels team who struggled this year, but is working its way back to find something. I mean, we're all excited about Neto and Ohapi and whatnot. The fans that I take issue are the ones who brag about this Dodgers team and make fun of the Angels. And let me make a very crystal clear. Let The Rock make it perfectly clear for you. There are longtime Dodger fans who know ball. We talk baseball. We go back and forth about it. These are the fans who sympathize with Angels fans because they know Artie Moreno is the problem. They're the ones who went through all the Frank McCourt stuff.
Yep.
And by the way, if there is a dividing line on when this team had a turnaround, it's when their owner was forced to get rid of the team. And for some reason, Artie can avoid, the death of a player, and he can avoid an FBI investigation into bribery, and he can avoid all this nonsense around the stadium. You name it. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And so Frank McCourt made the team his personal piggy bank. I don't know what Artie Moreno's doing to be able to not be forced out of his team, but longtime Dodger fans have empathy for that. Now, there's another contingent of Dodger fans out there. They were born yesterday. They came into existence. Their consciousness awoke, Mike, like last week, and they've enjoyed a very successful Dodgers team since the team got its act together in 2013. All they've ever known is this well-built, very competitive Dodgers team, and they're the ones who have the most to say about the Angels and to their fans. So let me make this perfectly clear for you. In the decade before the Dodgers from 2013 onward were on this run that they're on, the Angels, the prior decade, were on a run of their own. In 2002, they won their first World Series. They went to the ALDS in 04, the ALCS in 05, the DS in 07 and 08, the CS in 2009. I mentioned that earlier. If you want, we can throw in 2014. They had the best record in baseball that year. They got swept by the Royals. The Royals swept everybody on the way to the World Series, but eventually lost to the Giants. But they were first in their division 5 times that decade. They got to they got a wild card in the year they went to the World Series. And the Dodgers, during that same decade, had some good teams, 08, 09, but they also had their struggles too. They had losing records in 2005, 2010, third and fourth place finishes. In 2013, they turned things around and they've become contenders every year. That's the truth of it. So here's my issue with the fans who talk the most, who tend to jump into the comments and spend the most time talking trash and punching down. All you've ever known is this version of the Dodgers. So again, congratulations on waking up from your coma or gaining consciousness, understanding the world, opening your eyes in the year 2013, because apparently that's when you were born or got into baseball, when the Dodgers started being good. You punched down on the Angels. And for all the little brother talk, it speaks volumes that your first inclination is to go on Angels pages, go after Angels social people, make fun of the team when your team is in the World Series. I'm not sure what the chip is on your shoulder with the Angels. Maybe the rivalry means something to you. Maybe you're such a 2013 onward Dodger fan, baby, that somebody told you, oh, we don't like the Angels. And you went, okay. You took the passy out of your mouth and said, okay, we don't like the Angels. Maybe because the Angels have a legit World Series this millennium and not a Mickey Mouse ring, even though there is a Mickey Mouse statue of an Angels Mickey Mouse outside the stadium and Disneyland's down the road. But here's the deal. Every sports team, every fan base, every generation goes through a decade of disappointment and then a period of good times. And that's not just baseball. That's all sports. Look at us. We're 49ers fans. And you want to know how long we suffered after Steve Young was gone and Jerry Rice was gone and all that? We suffered a long time. It was a good decade, 12 years, Mike, before they started to get good again. Then they fell off and then they got good again. So fair warning to you, baby Dodger fan. The good times don't last forever. You've got and you have had a great team for the last decade. But in your newborn baby infant fandom, you've never known disappointment. You've never known it. And just like the expected numbers in baseball, the xFIP or the xERA, we'll call it X disappointment. Your team will regress. Disappointment will come. And you won't know how to handle it because all you've ever known is the thrill of this Dodgers team. So enjoy the ride. Enjoy it this time. But don't come crying to us when the tides turn and the Angel fans punch down on you for all the crap and all the nonsense and all the trash you've talked over this last decade. Don't be surprised when the tables get turned on you fairly soon. Probably not for a while, but it's going to happen. It happens to every fan base. It happens to every team. And I know all you've known is success, but don't be surprised when the tables get turned on you.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And fans, FanDuel wants you to be a smarter, better. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the live stats and view the play-by-play and so much more on the same page that you're placing your bets so that you can make better decisions and you can win more. And that's what FanDuel wants you to do, win more. And they're going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's all waiting for you at FanDuel.com.
Oh boy, I can hear the thunder of the keyboard and the names and the nonsense being thrown our way, Mike. But here's the thing. We didn't ask for this. We were well and good to just let it slide right off our back, but people had to bring us into the conversation. Here we are. This is where it stands. Now, what I don't understand is that in light of Ohtani making the playoffs and the World Series, that Mike Trout finds himself in this conversation. And it's all the usual talking points. It's, oh, look where loyalty got him. Look, he's hiding from the spotlight. Oh, look, he's comfortable in Anaheim. Oh, look, he just wanted to get the bag with the Angels instead of actually going and playing for a winner. And it's that last point that we take issue with, right, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, to act like Mike Trout isn't a competitive person, that's ridiculous because this guy is a competitive person. And it would have been so easy for him to go to a different team. Would have been so easy for him to sign with a different team, demand it. It's so easy for him to do it now. And the Angels will probably figure it out and teams will want him. But the truth is, to act like he's not a competitive person it shows me that you don't know the player and you haven't been watching who Mike Trout is and you haven't seen what he said. When he's been hurt and he's had to sit out, the emotion that he has on his face, that he's expressed in those interviews, that's a guy who has great competitiveness inside of him. I mean, let's not act like Mike Trout wouldn't have gotten way more money if he went somewhere else. He could have scored maybe $500 million. Even Jeff Passan of ESPN said that Yankees probably would have offered him like $600 million. And
right.
Here's what would have happened if he went there. He would have gotten hurt if he was with the Yankees or with the Phillies or whoever. The injuries would have come. Let's not act like that he wasn't the best player in baseball for an entire decade. And the injuries would have just not been there. I mean, the things that have happened to him have been things that have happened while he's playing ball. It's not because it's just some random issue. It's things that have taken place that have really been a part of him just playing ball. And the bottom line, and what I love about Mike Trout, and I find it fascinating that people are like, loyalty is such a bad thing. I honor Mike Trout for that. I honor Mike Trout for that. I also honor Shohei Ohtani for doing what was best for his career. But I honor Mike Trout. It's why, as a fan base, we love Trouty. In fact, Johnny, Jared Weaver is somebody that you love, and he did something very similar when he was going to hit free agency, right?
Yeah, the year before he was going to hit free agency, he signed a very team-friendly extension with the Angels and asked the question to the media. He said, how much money do I need? I want to make my family set for life. I want to take care of them the rest of my life. And he got his extension, around 2009 or so, before free agency was hitting. And he got his team to the postseason in 08, 09, 2014 after he signed that extension. Mike, I think some players are just built different, and that's who Mike Trout is. Again, just like Weaver, all the talk around him was, oh man, if he had gone to free agency, he would have made a lot more money. Same thing about Mike Trout. The fact that he stayed in Anaheim and essentially took a discount because he would have been the first $500 million, $600 million player. And he didn't do it because he wanted to win here. And that's just who Mike Trout is. Yes, the injuries suck. The lack of playing time sucks. There's nobody working harder to get back out there than Mike Trout. And the last 8 years have been disappointing, but how sweet would it be for not just Angel fans, but the story of baseball to see Mike Trout lead a young team of Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, Joe Adell, Jack Kahanowitz, Reed Detmers, all those guys, How sweet would it be for Mike Trout to be able to lead a team of those young guys to the playoffs? Things they can turn around for this team if they keep investing in the young talent that they have. And for the first time in a long time, it seems like they're willing to do that. And so I have confidence that maybe not next year, maybe not the year after that, at some point in Mike Trout's remaining playing time, he's got a lot of time left on that contract, things are going to turn around for this team. And I'm going to be happy that he's here and chose to be here and get something for this team. Nobody talks about, the Tigers wasted Miguel Cabrera all those years that they had him and da-da-da-da-da. Like, they got to the postseason with him. The Angels got to postseason with Trout. And what became of it? Nothing.
Yeah.
Tigers, same thing. So I don't know why the narrative always shifts to Mike Trout. I don't know why he's always catching strays. I don't know who he offended or ticked off. But there just seems to be a contingent out there who loves to make that a problem for Mike Trout, make that a problem for baseball. The fact that he wants to stay here and wants to win with this team, I don't think that that's a problem.
Here's why. Here's why people go after him. They're going after him because they don't believe that he's this nice of a guy and that he's this good of a human. They have to believe that something in him is wrong or flawed. And it must be, if they can't find a character issue or a character flaw, they're going to have to pin it on, the fact that he just didn't want to leave Anaheim is a big deal. Man, longevity allows you to earn trust and respect, and you get to win. It could have been easy for me in the career that I'm in, or the career that you're in, John. It could have been easy for us to move on to the sexiest, hottest thing. And we didn't. We stayed where we're at and doing what we're doing. And we've seen successes and effectiveness because we stayed and we were loyal, because we loved the area, we loved the people, and we loved what we were doing. And so baseball fans, Dodger fans, baseball media, national media, use all the energy that you have to dump on the Angels, and just add this little caveat to that conversation. Artie Moreno. That's what you should add. And that will help us as Angel fans to get out of the pit that we're in and to put the fire out. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can check out the Locked On MLB as your second listen, and Soli is going to talk to you about all the playoff stuff that's happening, and you can find his show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
All right, let us have it on Twitter at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros, Twitter and Instagram. Get in the YouTube comments. Find today's show, whether you're watching or listening. Come on over, get in the comment section, because we would love to hear from you. We would just love to hear everything you got to say, because at the end of the day, even Dodger fans' comments help the engagement, Mike, and boost us in the YouTube algorithm. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
John, when's it a good time to call up a player? Or what kind of free agent should the Angels sign this offseason? We're going to answer those questions tomorrow on Locked On Angels. We're going to actually look at the Angels' history for the answers and see what went well, what didn't go well, and hopefully the Angels can repeat some of those decisions in 2024 to 2025. We're going to talk about all of that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody. End of story. We're closing the book, closing the chapter on this Ohtani talk, just for Sydney Scott on YouTube. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, we'll see you back here on Thursday. Closing the book. Done. Over.